And this is Ken Kreitzer with another edition of the Iona College Basketball Report by Sons of the American Legion Radio, centered at Squadron 135 in White Plains, New York. And I had a chance to talk with our good friend Kevin Hamilton, class of 80, Iona College Athletic Hall of Famer. Kevin, good to see you.
Good to see you again also, Ken.
Thank you. And we had a mixed week of Iona basketball this past week with a win at home and a loss at Fairfield. And the women's team did very well with two dominant victories this past week. Let's start with the women's basketball team. Coach Billy Gotze has really got the team playing very well. They are leading the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference with an 8-2 record, 12-9 on the year. And they're coming off a couple of very good wins. Here last week, they had a win over Niagara, 73-46, and then they went down to Monmouth and gave a good representation of Iona basketball with a 64-49 win. So Coach Billy Gotze has got the women's basketball team for Iona playing very well.
Yeah, Coach Gotze and her staff are doing just a great job having their team prepared to play every game. And I got to tell you, early season tough non-conference games are really coming back to help this team because they're playing in-conference tough teams with the type of swagger and enthusiasm that they really need. So no one's surprised that they're doing this well, coming off of a very, very tough non-conference schedule. And then the sign also is that they're playing some of their arch rivals, Monmouth, Marist, and other teams extremely well, and that's a good sign for her team thus far in the season.
And Joy Adams is having a terrific year, leading the team 14 points a game, and just a terrific rebounding player as well. And so she's having a terrific season.
Joy is a very special player, and you saw that for the last couple of years she's played. She does it all. She can certainly rebound as good as anyone in the game, but her scoring is something that is very important to the Lady Gaels because she can hit buckets along with Ms. Robinson, the other young lady that's a very good player. They can hit buckets in crunch time when you really need to have it. But most importantly, Joy is the type of leader that really drives the rest of the team to perform at a very high level. So she's having another great year, and no one should be surprised.
Absolutely, and they get the annual trip to Western New York. They will play Saturday at Niagara, 3:00 start, and then they'll play Monday night at Buffalo at Canisius, a 7:00 start. That game is going to be on ESPN3. So a big weekend for them. And then the Gaels head up to Western New York the following week. So 2 weeks in a row, they're going to see the best of Iona basketball in Buffalo and Niagara.
Well, that's a very tough trip. Although it's still within the state, it's a long trip and it's grueling. And both of those teams are good home teams for both the Lady Gaels as well as the men's team. They all are going to play very, very tough. And it's just get up there, survive the stress of everything, and be able to perform the way you can perform on the road.
Absolutely. Now moving to the men's team. The men's Gael team under Tim Cluse is 10-9 on the year, 7-2 in the MAC. They're in fourth place in the MAC, and they're not accustomed to being in fourth place in the MAC, but it's very tight. It's all bunched up within a game of each other. And just looking at the MAC standings, we have Monmouth leading with a 7-2 record. They are 15-5 on the year. St. Peter's in second, 6-2, followed by Siena and Iona at 7-3, followed by Manhattan and Fairfield and Canisius just behind in the middle group, looking to try to get into the upper group. But we could see easily the formation of what could be the quarterfinals or the semifinals at the MAC tournament. What are your thoughts, Kevin, about this bunch of teams at the top of the MAC conference in the men's league, Monmouth, St. Peter's, Siena, and Iona?
Well, my thoughts are the top tier of the teams that are leading in the conference right now is really no surprise. You know, you would come into the season expecting Iona to be where they are and even higher. Monmouth came in with such a great reputation from their success early in the year. But the rest of the teams, there's really no surprise. It's a very competitive league this year. What I will say is this, is that, like we mentioned, we're going to talk about Fairfield and other teams. On any given night, if one of these teams get hot, you can expect it to be very competitive, and teams are going to have to play their best, especially on the road, to beat each other. So I'm not surprised that the four that you mentioned are at the top, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's one or two others that work their way into the top before the conference season ends.
Well, we had a very competitive game here last Friday night with John Dunn St. Peter's team coming in. It was kind of a quiet game. It looked Iona was leading by a 10 or more point margin, but then all of a sudden St. Peter's went on a big run in the middle of the second half. I think it was 22-2, and Iona really had to hold them off at the end, playing without Jordan Washington. And Isaiah Williams, 19 points, and made this terrific three-pointer at the end that really clinched the game.
Well, as we talked about in the last segment, Isaiah is a type of player that will do whatever it takes to help his team. But going back to that game, I can tell you that Iona took their foot off the pedal a little bit, had some big leads against St. Peter's and was cruising, very easily. But what has to happen, and what Coach Kluse, I'm sure, emphasized to his team, is when you have a team down like that, you have to put them away. And they didn't put St. Peter's away. They allowed them to chip away. And then when they went on that, I think it was 22-3 run, then you have a different game. So fortunately for the Gaels, they were able to hold on, get some key buckets from some key players at the right times to win the game. But if there's a takeaway from this, they really have to understand when you have a team down, you have to put them away and not allow them to get back in the game and really finish it off. And that's probably the takeaway that they'll get from that game.
Deshani Mush, the freshman, had 17 points, really was hitting his shots in the first half. A.J. English, 11 points, 8 assists. He seemed to be deferring to his teammates a lot in the game.
Well, A.J. is a very capable and very good passer and really likes to have his teammates involved. You'll notice he did the same thing in the Fairfield game in the first half, where he was trying very, very hard to get the inside play going and also getting Isaiah and others open shots. But there'll come a time where A.J. will recognize and realize, okay, I need to be the one that's going to get a big bucket here, or I need to be the one that's going to get to the foul line. And he does it constantly, consistently, and as good as any player right now in America. So he does a good job at it.
Well, Sunday the team was able to get through the snow and up to Fairfield, and I think they wish they had had another day or so to practice or get ready for that one, and they lost 98-91 to Fairfield after the Stags jumped way ahead 18-2, and I caught up. Jordan Washington, coming back from his 2-game suspension, had one of his best games ever, 33 points. What were your thoughts on the Fairfield game?
Well, as I mentioned to you, and people watching this or listening to this would probably thought I was a little crazy. Fairfield is still a very formidable opponent. They're young, they're learning through the season, but they're very capable. And they shot the ball extremely well early part of that game. And when you shoot that well and Iona didn't shoot the ball that well, then that's what the result is, an 18-4, 18-6, 18-8, whatever the lead was. And it's tough to come back from those leads when you're struggling from the field. Now, it was great to have Jordan back, and he certainly performed extremely well. But the biggest problem that the Gaels right now in the last number of games have to address is stopping the other team. There's no question that Iona can score on anyone, but holding teams below the century mark, 100 points, is important. And in these conference games, holding teams to 70 points should really be the goal. And it's going to take some work. The Gaels are going to have to really figure this out to ensure they get off to good starts, but at the same time hold teams down from scoring as many points as they do.
Well, we saw that in the Monmouth game when Monmouth scored 110 points, and you're not going to win too often. And it's a trick. Monmouth really played up tempo, and Fairfield played very aggressive offense. Marcus Gilbert had 32 points for Fairfield, and AJ English again didn't score first half, 16 all in the second half, and so. Gaels move on to a couple of more games this weekend, and what I got to ask you about is, this is the rivalry game for Manhattan. Monmouth was a big game, but Manhattan, the Jaspers, they're less than 10 miles away. The coaches all know each other. They play practice, pick-up basketball games with each other, and it's become the big rivalry. But when you played, and I was following college basketball at the same time, was before the conferences. And so there was a broader spectrum of rivals. What were the big rivals for Iona when you played, here at Iona in the late 70s?
Well, Manhattan was certainly one of the rivals, and very close to Manhattan was Fordham, was a big rivalry game for us. St. Peter's, although we hated playing St. Peter's with no shot clock, they held the ball on us, and it was very difficult to score without the ball. Siena was very good. A lot of the current MAC teams were still there, but the big rivalries certainly were Manhattan, Fordham, Army was a big rivalry, and St. Peter's. And then beyond that, obviously, we played an extremely aggressive non-conference schedule, so we built up rivalries with Georgetown and Wichita State and teams like that. But Fordham, Manhattan, will always be a rivalry when they come to this gym and we go there.
Absolutely close by, and obviously for Manhattan last year defeated Iona in the MAC Conference Championship, really 2 years in a row, and Steve Masiello is kind of has a rebuilding season going. They're in fifth in the MAC, 5-4 in the conference, 8-10 overall. But I was over. I saw them play night before Thanksgiving against George Mason, and they were down in that game substantially. And then all of a sudden they crept back in and went up and got their energy going and pulled that game out. Really, when we thought it was all over about at halftime. So they're an aggressive team. What are your thoughts about the Gaels playing Manhattan on Friday night here at the Heinz Center?
Well, this is a big game for both teams. It's certainly a game that the focus will be on having to play with a lot of composure and also having to make sure that you get off to the right kind of start that you need to. So the Gaels must get off to a good start against Manhattan. Manhattan is different this year. Their makeup of their team is different. They don't have the so-called stars on their team. They have good players, but they play extremely hard. That's one thing that I can tell you Coach Masiello has done with this group. For the lack of what they would call so much extreme talent, they have a ton of energy and play extremely hard. So the Gaels are going to have to deal with that. They're very physical. They also like to push and shove a little bit to get some advantage. And if the officials allow that, then it's to Manhattan's benefit. But I don't think a real solid ball player is going to have to do much to get up and ready to play this game. If there's anybody on either team, and certainly on the Gaels, if they need some motivation to come play this game, then there's something wrong with them. So I would think that they're going to come out, the Gaels will come out extremely excited to play, extremely prepared to play, and then it's really about execution at that point, and they have to execute early. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Iona come out and play very well. They're going to have to keep the foot down on the neck of Manhattan to make sure that they don't allow them to do what they've traditionally done this year, which is come back on teams that have big leads against them. So I would say, and you can hear the Gaels practicing right now, I would say they're in there talking about that. Good start, solid middle of the game, keep the pressure on, and don't allow big runs from Manhattan.
And I know we expect a big crowd here at the Heinz Center for that game on Friday night. Then the Gaels go over on Monday night, February 1st. Hard to believe it's February, just next couple of days, to play a rematch with St. Peter's. I'm sure they're looking forward to the Gaels coming back. St. Peter's almost pulled off a big upset here last Friday night. St. Peter's is 6-2 and 8-9 on the season, and they're becoming, and they want to be a big factor in the MAC tournament when it's up in Albany in just over a month. What are your thoughts about how Iona is going to approach going back to Jersey City to play at St. Peter's?
Well, St. Peter's is a very good home team, like the Gaels are in their own gym. And as you saw the other night, they will continue to play. They play through adversity. They could be down quite a bit, but they will play until the final second clicks off the clock. That last game, though, I think gives St. Peter's some confidence that they'll be able to play with the Gaels on their own court. And I would hope that the Gaels go there, solid start once again, but show and play with the confidence that they need to play with. Now, Jordan Washington will be back, and that's a big advantage for the Gaels because St. Peter's hasn't seen him at this point. But the Gaels are going to need to play well over there in Jersey City to come away with the victory.
Kevin Hamilton, class of 80, Iona Athletic Hall of Famer. Glad you were able to dig out of the snow and join us for another Iona College basketball report.
Well, thanks for having me. And I got to tell you, I'm extremely excited for the Gaels tomorrow night against Manhattan. It's a big game this time of the year that they'll need to play well, and we all hope they do.
Thank you, Kevin. And this is Ken Kreitzer. Follow us on Twitter at Suns Legion Radio and also on Facebook on our page, Iona College Basketball Report. And we'll be here next week for another report on Iona College basketball. Look forward to the men's home game against Manhattan and their trip to St. Peter's, and also the women's team journey up to Western New York for 2 games. So this is Ken Kreitzer, NBA 86 from Iona, for Sons of the American Legion Radio, which is a program of Squadron 135 in White Plains, New York, part of the 300,000-member Sons of the American Legion Radio supporting America's veterans. This is Ken Kreitzer. Have a good week.